YouTube, we back at it, man. Today, we cooking up a dark, emotional piano beat for Lil Durk. We finna break this thing down real smooth. Like, my homeboy hit me up too. He told me I should get into the more intricate parts of these tutorials, like a little bit more on the mixing side, and you know what I'm saying, what I'm doing, the smaller pieces of it. So I'm gonna try something a little different with this video. But without further ado, man, let's get into this cook up. Alright, so we in Keyscape with it. LA Custom C7 grand piano, one of the greats. Let's get into this a little bit. So with this melody here, this is a little bit of a longer loop than usual. Usually we go 8 bars, but we doubled that here because I really wanted to get that emotional feel, and I'll show y'all how. So this might look a little bit complicated at first glance, but let's split this up into how I actually constructed this whole thing here. So we're gonna mute all these notes and we're just gonna basically take it from the top. So I have no background in piano, anything like that, any instrument really. I played a little tuba in band in middle school, but that ain't nothing. So I do have this 61 key MIDI keyboard, so sometimes I just like to play around with it. So for this beat, I started out with nothing but these bass notes here and this top melody, and it's real simple. So let's see what that sound like. Just 2 notes at the top. So you see how simple that is, man. So all we really doing is the root note, and up here, the half steps. Easy. We just staying on these notes that are right next to each other to give it that dark sound. Once we get over here to the 8 bars, we want that emotion to hit. So in my Hot Boy video, I was explaining how if you go from the root note and go down 4 notes, whatever note that 4th note is, to me, it just always hits a little bit more emotionally, like you feel it a little bit more. So as you can hear here, it just give it that feeling. And then we're just gonna come back to it again. And then we're just coming back up. And on this F sharp here, we're using this F sharp because it's 1 note above that E. So it's gonna kind of just resolve itself back into the beginning of the loop to give it a really smooth, like it's really smooth on the replay. Easy. So once we did that part, the next thing we did was I came in and I added these top notes. So we'll unmute these and we'll see what that sounds like. And as you can see here, this is also really simple. We're just on these half steps again and the root note. And we're just playing with that all the way through. And that just repeats itself again, nothing crazy there. After that, I added in this top melody. Now keep in mind, I did all of this on my MIDI keyboard myself, pieces at a time. So because I don't play piano, at the top of FL here, there's this little blend recording button right here. And what that does is you can play one piece of your melody, and then you can go back and you can record and play the next piece again, but it's gonna play over it. Instead of erasing what you played the first time, it's just gonna add to that original melody that you played. So that's a great feature. So I came in behind that and I just played with some notes on my keyboard really, but we can explain this as well, technically. So here, these are called grace notes, and I'll let you hear it. So really, that's kind of just a taste. I was just hearing that melody in my head, so that's what I decided to play out. But as you can see, I'm still doing kind of the same exact thing. I'm still on these half steps for the most part here. Those darker notes. So it's really nothing too crazy once you really look at it. These are called grace notes when it kind of swings into the note like that. Or a flam is another word for it. If you're clicking these in, let's say I put a note here and I put another note there. If I grab this note at the top here and just hold Alt or Option on the Mac and just drag it forward like this, that's how you get it closer so that it kind of swings into that other note like that. So boom. After that, the last piece that we added were just these notes at the bottom here, just to kind of fill in this middle space a little bit more. So I'll let y'all hear that. Same thing, man. We on them half steps. And there you go, man. That's a full piano melody right there. And I don't even play the keys. So if I can do it, y'all can definitely do it, man. All right, so as far as mixing on the sound goes, pretty much all I have on here is a Valhalla vintage verb. Turn up the pre-delay a little bit. What the pre-delay does, it keeps the reverb from coming in immediately. As soon as the sound hits, you kind of want the sound to come through a little dry at first, and then the reverb come in as it plays. We turn the decay down here, and we turn up this low cut knob. The low cut knob basically takes out the low end out of the reverb to give it a more clean sound, and we just turn down the mix on that. And then as far as leveling goes, I just turned down the sound of the piano basically to ear, but we'll get into that a little later. All right, so that piano part was definitely gonna be the longest part of the video. So from here, the next melody I did was this Aggiato, I don't know how you say that, bro. Violins from SRX Orchestra. So with this melody, all I did basically was I followed the root notes for this little bottom piece, and at the top, this was kind of just to ear, but at the same time, you can see we are still on these same half steps and the root note. So this is what that sounds like. Crazy. This is just a little obscure thing that I've noticed, but if you have a note that's at B, it usually is going to sound good going into E. I don't know why. I'm sure there's a musical explanation for that, but if you have a note at B, go to E next, and vice versa. Don't know how that works, but it does. On this preset, I have a Fruity Stereo enhancer on the preset for strings. I mean, it says it's for strings, so, but basically kind of spaces it out a little bit more. And then we just have a Valhalla vintage verb again, pre-delay up a little bit, turn the mix down, turn the decay down a little bit, and we turn up that low cut. And I also took this knob, so this big knob at the top here, and if your mixer doesn't look like mine, over here I have mine set to wide if you want to copy that. But I took this big knob here, and what this does is it pans the sound. So I pan the strings to the right a little bit, because if you're thinking about, let's say you're at a concert, right? And somebody's playing a piano in front of you. On a piano, the lower notes, like the bass notes, are going to be played by their left hand. So that's going to be on the left side of you. The higher notes on the piano are going to be played with the right hand. So just a thing that I personally like to do when I'm mixing. If a sound is a lower sound, I'll pan it to the left more. If it's a higher octave sound, I'll pan it to the right just to open up the space of the beat. So with these strings, because they're at a higher octave, even though they do also have those low notes in there, I still just pan it to the right just a little bit with this big knob here. This little knob is the stereo separation. So if I turn it all the way to the left here, it's gonna make the sound stereo or spread it out more. If I turn it all the way to the right, that makes it mono, and it narrows it in all into the center. So I just stereo separated just a little bit there. Alright, so we in SRX Orchestra here, and we are on the Pizzicato Spiccato preset. This one's real simple, man, nothing too crazy. We just had these notes at the end of each of the bars. At the end, we kind of switch it up a little bit, and we go up the scale into the same half step note here, a B. And then even though these are separated, we're still playing with the half steps. So we, from that B, we go to the C, and then we just kind of come down the scale from there. So here's what that sounds like. Let me play that from the beginning, actually. That's beautiful, man. Real orchestral. As far as the mixing goes on that one, I just stereo separated a little bit. I had the Fruity Stereo Enhancer again on the 4 strings preset. We have another Valhalla Vintage Verb. Same thing, pre-delay, turn down the mix, turn down the decay, turn up the low cut. And I also have a Pan Man on here. Basically what this is doing is it's panning the strings from one ear to the other ear. I'll play it again in case you didn't really hear it the first time like that. So it's just kind of moving as it's progressing. That one was on the left. That one's kind of coming across again. And that one was moving to the right as it was going through. So that's the strings there. All right, so the next melody that we got here is a clear glockenspiel from SRX Orchestra again. With these type of beats, sound selection is going to be half the battle. So you see that we're focusing on kind of more acoustic instruments like pianos, strings, a bell. A bell is usually going to work with these type of beats. So as you make more beats in your career, you'll start to learn kind of what sounds work together really well, and you even discover some new combinations on your own. But for this one, man, we're sticking with these acoustic sounds, so that's why we got this bell here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is actually turn off the effects that I put on this bell so you can hear how simple this bell really is first. As you can see, really we're just kind of going down, up and down the scale, but I actually flipped this. So if you press Alt-Y, it'll flip your melody. So this is originally how this melody started out for me. Pretty tough. So it was really mostly the ear, but again, man, we're on the half steps mostly. We're always going to be on those half steps. And I just kind of click these in until I figured out what I like. So I started out with these 3, or this set of notes here, just going down and coming back up. And then I added these notes on top, just depending like how it sounds to me. I just heard that in my head. So after I came up with this extremely simple melody, I pressed Alt-Y and I flipped it like this. And then this is what it sounded like. It sounds a lot darker to me. So boom, once I did that, that's when we got into the effects a little bit more here. So on the effects, you can ignore this halftime. I don't even have it on. I tried it, didn't like how it sounded, but sometimes halftime on bells does sound really good. In this instance, it just didn't. So I added this Valhalla shimmer first. And it just basically is adding a little bit of reverb to it. I turned down the mix here, as well as the mix here is only halfway, so it's not too much because it can add a lot of reverb to it. I'll show you what it'll do if I turn all the way up. Which sounds kind of hard, but it's a lot going on once the beat is actually playing with other sounds and reverb. It just all clashes. So we turn that down. Next, I added this crystallizer 2. And what this does is it kind of adds like grains or like bits to the sound. So I'll just let you hear it so you can see what it sounds like. That's saucy. It kind of adds like this reverse kind of like delay to it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's hard. So yeah, and now after that, we just added this pancake 2. And this is the same as that Pan Man preset earlier. It's just a little bit different. But basically all this does is pan the sound a little bit. This one is actually free. So I recommend if you don't have a preset, a go-to preset that pans sounds for you, go download Pancake 2, man. It's a solid one. I've been using it for a long time. So all together, that pancake is just kind of keeping it moving. Simple, man. Really simple. All right, and the last sound that we have for the melody is this Reese bass. I'm not sure exactly which kit I got it out of, but this is what that bass is sounding like. We had some slides in here to give it a little energy. So all this Reese bass is doing is following the root note. We added these slides, and you can do that if you put a note into your piano roll. You can double click that note. This box is going to pop up. And you want to click on this little slide option right here. It looks like a slide. And that'll basically slide the note for you. You'll know it's a slide once it has a little triangle on the note. So with these slides, like, it's really popular in drill music. It just kind of, you know, moves the sound of the note around. It slides it. So if I pull it up this high, you'll kind of be able to hear it more. So yeah, you just kind of got to play around with it and get it to like where you like it. But the longer you stretch it, the longer the slide goes. So you see this one I have really short, and these two I kind of have a little bit longer. So it's really just a taste. As far as mixing goes on this, whenever I have a bass or a sound like an 808 or something, I personally put the sound in mono, so that's just more tight, and I just want that bass coming straight down the middle, because I mean the bass, that's like the glue of the beat, so I really just want that centered. So I'm going to put that in mono just about every time. And I also added this decapitator plugin. I went to the bass beefy preset, and that just gives it a little bit more beef pause to the bass itself. So nothing too difficult there. All right, so all together, this is what the melody sounded like. It's hard. Yeah, that's crazy. That's tough, man. I like that. Alright, man. So next, let's get into these drums. Let's play it from here, man. Alright, so you already know where we starting out with. We got the clap and the snare. You're going to want to layer your claps and your snares more times than not. I mean, it depends on the feel of the beat, but me personally, for making something like this, I want that clap and that snare to really hit. And the best way to achieve that, in my opinion, without having to do anything too complicated, is to just layer the sounds. So we got that clap and we got that snare on top of each other. All right, simple, man. So from there, we got this hi-hat. What I did with this hi-hat was pretty much it's just a simple two-step pattern, and I added a few rolls in there. Now, if I can find the hi-hat here, let's turn off the effects, and this is what the hi-hat sounds like. Let me do these over here, actually. Take every other hi-hat, and down here, if you hold Alt and scroll your mouse wheel, you can raise or lower the velocity of the note. Another thing you do is if you just press Control A and highlight everything and then press Alt R, you can randomize the velocities with this little knob here. But yeah, I just did every other note to get a little bit more bounce with it. More times than not, I mean, you can always go crazy on your hi-hats, but a simple two-step pattern, it really is easier for a lot of artists to just kind of get on and rap. It just keeps a steady rhythm really easy. It's really predictable rhythm. So then what I did from there was I came in here and I turned on Looperator, and I just added this little 6 roll somewhere in the hi-hat. So this is what it sounds like now. So one thing that I learned over time is that if you add a roll in your hi-hats either before the clap going into the clap, after the clap, coming out of the clap or snare, or going into like an 808 or like a kick hitting, that's usually going to sound really good compared to if I were just randomly throwing in rolls anywhere in here. So you kind of want to focus on either going into the clap or out of a clap, or when the 808 hits or something. So that's kind of how I decide where to add my rolls. All right, so as far as the rest of the percussion goes, the rest of the things we added were really small things. We added a crash, another crash halfway through. Then we added these open hats, which I'll go into a little bit more in depth. This is a rim shot here, and then we have a triangle. So this is what that sounds like. Yeah, so these open hats here, I came in and I just Alt R and played with the velocity on those a little bit. And then this open hat is a reverse open hat. So if I open it up here, that's the reverse open hat. And I think it just goes nicely because it goes from that reverse open hat into that snare at the top. So I'll play that with this rim shot as well. So I think it's just a nice little texture. And the same thing with the rim shot. I'm basically doing the same thing that this open hat is kind of doing. It's just going into the snare. All right, next, one of my favorite parts personally, we got the 808. So we just following the root note, man. Playing around with some of these notes in here for some transitions. And let's get into it, man. That's what that sounds like. Simple. Nothing too crazy there. As you can see, we have our velocities pretty much turned up to the max. I think the only notes that aren't turned up are some of these notes where I'm just transitioning into another note. So I wanted this one to hit a little bit softer, going into that high C there. But pretty much, man, these are all turned up to the max. We have a roll here. So what I did for this roll was I came up to this little magnet. I changed it to, I believe, this 1/2 step. And if you zoom in, it's gonna make the little cuts you can make really small. So I just chopped that down. Took this note, chopped it down like that. Simple. Real simple, man. Now, as far as mixing goes on my 808, I learned this sauce from my boy Chris Keys. Shout out Chris Keys, man. But if you put a fruity limiter on your 808, you can go to these presets here. And there's a preset called Max Loudness Except Noise. So we use that preset and we just turn down the gain until the 808 is just hitting right where we want it to. I know a lot of people tell you not to use the fruity limiter, but I mean, if you know how to use it, it's perfectly fine. On top of that 808, we also have a kick, which I have in mono because I want that kick right down the middle. We also have a fruity limiter on that. And let me turn that kick on. All right. And we just had the kick hitting every other couple of pieces. So not through the whole thing this time. That's nothing wrong with that at all, but I just want the kick to kind of add a little emphasis on certain parts. So that's what this sounds like. So that's all the kick is doing there. All right, man, that's our beat. So we're going to see what that thing sounding like. Nah, I got a little tip for y'all as well. If y'all want to hear how y'all beat sound with an artist on it, or like just to get an idea if y'all beat it has too much going on, too little going on, what you can do. I'm not really exactly sure how you can exactly do this, but you can find acapellas on YouTube, for example, and somehow get them into your FL Studio, and you just get a matching BPM of your acapella to your beat, and you can basically have that artist on your beat for a reference. So I'm gonna play the beat and we're gonna hear what that sound like. I'm gonna take that out of there though, because I'm not trying to get copyrighted, but we're gonna have a little bit of it in there just so you can see.
Hey, Rich! Wow.
They ain't even go shot. I had a prep talk with a baby threat and I told him keep it sign. I had cut today. Told my lawyer fuck that case I'm fine. Act like bro up for 3 guns even though lil' bro had said they mine. I need.
Yeah. That's all right there. Alright, man, that's our beat for the day, man. Lil Durk, emotional dark piano beat. We got it done. If y'all rocking with the way that we did this video, you know what I'm saying, going into the detail with the mixing and, you know, the little intricate things more so, let me know if y'all rocking with that, man. If it's too long-winded for you, let me know. It ain't gonna hurt my feelings. It's only gonna help, man. I just want to provide y'all the best content I can. So yeah, bro, without further ado, man, if y'all like the video, drop me a little like, drop me a little subscribe, but we out of here. Till the next one.